Soon after installing an Evo rear track bar relocation bracket, I actually had a lot of guys ask, why that over something like an adjustable rear track bar? And the simple answer is, an adjustable track bar can only do one thing, and that's to recenter your axle. What it can't do is correct geometry, as in getting your track bar sitting level again like it was from the factory, and by virtue of it, helping to improve your roll center. That's what a track bar relocation bracket is designed to do. And if anything, getting your axle more centered again is kind of a perk. Now, there are definitely benefits to installing an adjustable track bar in addition to a relocation bracket, especially if you have more lift than the bracket was originally designed to accommodate. Certainly, what it'll allow you to do is to center your axle even more at ride height, or in our case, purposely shift your axle to the driver's side so that it helps things like your pinion from making contact with the gas tank skid plate at a full flex. Needless to say, that's what we're going to be doing today. This looks like it's the rear straps. So you can see here, part number RS881033B for a JL Jeep rear adjustable track bar. Now, this is some heavy duty plastic. Sheesh, talk about packaging. That's pretty. So this is obviously a factory front track bar. It's pretty featherweight. This rear one is substantially heavier by comparison. I don't know if it's solid. It may or may not be. But you can see here that the factory track bar has bonded rubber bushings, or what are also known as cleveite. This metal sleeve is actually physically bonded to this metal collar with a rubber in between. And the Rancho bushings, they have what are called D2 flex joints or D2 joints. And they're a little bit different. They're almost like a spherical joint, but they're actually, I think they're bonded to this material to allow for more rotation. But they're supposed to be totally service free. You don't need to grease them. In fact, let's go ahead and put it in a vise and see how these things work by comparison. So factory track bar. Let's just crank that on. Okay, you can see right here on the joint, you can see how I can rotate this thing back and forth, and the crush sleeve is held in place. That's how it would be from the factory. And you can see there's a resistance on either end of the spectrum. And if I go hard enough, it's actually rotating the sleeve. So you can see how bind from these bushings would limit the articulation of your axle. So by comparison, see how this does. Look at that. It's just rotating. No effort whatsoever. You can see here the crush sleeve isn't rotating at all. So when it comes to the flex department, your axle is going to be able to travel a lot easier with a set of these bushings as opposed to the factory. Let's get it installed. 21mm socket. Because it's cold, I'm going to go ahead and grab some gloves. When is winter going to end? So what I'm going to do first is actually remove the factory rear track bar, take a measurement eye to eye, set this accordingly, and then add a little bit of length to it. And you know, before I even do that, let me go ahead and measure where we're at. We've done this before when we installed our rear track bar relocation bracket. But now that the springs have settled a bit, I think it might be a good idea to see where we're at now. About 3 1/4 inches. Okay, so 3 1/2 inches. That means the axle is still defaulting to passenger. So what I'm going to do is at least bring it back to a point where at ride height, it's similar. and then maybe even give it a little bit extra. So I need to correct it by 1/4 of an inch, and then I might add a 1/4 of an inch, so maybe a 1/2 inch in total toward driver. All right. Really? Sway bar link in the way. So normally this should be a lot easier to do, except for the fact that we're running these really tall rear sway bar links because of our lift, of course, but because of that, the sway bar arm itself is pretty high up and I can't pull out that bolt. So 18mm wrench and socket, get this guy off. Wow, I wish I had a scale. I mean, the weight difference between these two, this is like nothing. This thing is very heavy. Let's go over to the workbench. All right, so let's take a measurement of the factory track bar. Center to center, or eye to eye. It looks like we got a reading of 37.5 to the center of this hole. You always want to make sure you measure eye to eye. So we'll take a measurement of the Rancho one. We got a measurement of 37 3/8. So obviously we need to go longer. Okay, that looks like 37.5. Now, as you recall, I was about a 1/4 inch too much over to passenger, so I may try to go as much as 38.25 to get it to where I want it to be. Let's see, that's half, one, half, turn, half, turn. 37 7/8, maybe we'll settle. We'll split the difference, and of course we can always make future adjustments if necessary. So for now, I think I'll settle with 37 7/8 and hope that makes a difference. So we'll go ahead and tighten up this jam nut. Okay, perfect. So you can see on this end anyway, it's longer, but just by a bit. It's what we wanted. Let's get this guy installed. You know, because this isn't cleavite or bonded rubber bushing like factory, we could have technically done this on a rack because there was no bind that we would have seen. But since we're already on the ground, this is just as easy. Now, if you look over here, you can see that the holes aren't aligned, not even close. So we're gonna have to have someone push on the side of the Jeep to get it shifted over and make this work out.
More?
Yeah, a lot more. Yeah, more, almost more. Okay. All right, thanks to Cindy's help, we were able to get the Jeep shifted over enough for me to get this bolt in. Gonna take our flag nut, get it situated here. So before we torque everything down to factory specs, we're gonna go ahead and take another measurement. See how we did. 3 5/8, 3 1/4. Yeah, maybe like 3 9/16 more like. So clearly the shift worked. So now that we've determined that, we're gonna go ahead and torque on those bolts to 125 foot-pounds of torque. And there you have it. We now have our brand new Rancho rear adjustable track bar installed on top of our Evo track bar relocation bracket. And of course, we purposely lengthened it just a bit so that the axle would shift over toward the driver's side and help clear things like our pinion yoke so that it wouldn't make contact with the gas tank skid plate at a full flex.